In this video you will see how a backyard that never truly felt complete becomes a canvas for something entirely new. A terrace, built from the ground up. Now the kitchen, crafted piece by piece. And the finishing touches that tie it all together. But the journey won't be perfect. You will witness setbacks, the mistakes, the trial and error of a true beginner. And you will see how every challenge shaped the final result. This is not just construction, it's a transformation. It's the story of turning an imperfect backyard into something unforgettable. And it all starts right now. Every project has a beginning. And this one starts with a backyard that never quite felt right. The plants have lost their charm. A pile of old artificial grass still lingers in the corner. It's far from inspiring. But this is where the vision takes shapes. Because before you can build something new, you have to strip the old away. Before we start building, we needed a plan. Plastic guy, who is actually an architect, helped us to visualize our ideas. For the first time, everything felt organized. And in the end, we went with this design. Now the real work begins. We start by clearing out the old plants, knocking them out of the way to make space for what has to come. If you want to see more building projects like this, don't forget to subscribe and follow along, because this transformation has truly begun. With the old plants cleared away, it was time to lay the foundation for the wooden terrace. We started by placing sturdy hardwood posts into the ground, and then we cut impregnated beams to size. These beams were set slightly above the ground, keeping them dry and ready for the terrace to take shape. We used these beams also as guides, showing us exactly where the hardwood post needed to go. Step by step, the structure began to emerge. Once the basic structure was in place, doubts started to creep in. The gaps between the posts felt too wide, and we questioned the stability of this terrace. To fix this, we added extra posts into the ground, giving the beams more support. We initially tried to secure the beams to the hardwood post with screws, but they kept breaking. Looking back, I'm glad they didn't work, because in the end, only bolts would give the terrace the strength it truly needs. After securing the first beam, we decided to pause the installation for the rest of the beams. First, we needed to lay a weed membrane beneath the terrace. It would be a shame if the weeds started to grow into the gaps later on. With this membrane in place, we could finally complete the foundation, ready for the next step of the build. After a few more hours of working into the evening, we decided it was enough for the day. When we returned for the next session, as always, we got help from Plastering. Together we completed the terrace railing, carefully fitting each piece to create a solid finishing edge. We then reinforced the frame by adding vertical beams, giving the structure extra strength and stability. Finally, we made sure the weed membrane was fully in place, covering the ground beneath the terrace and ensuring it would stay clean and tidy for the years to come. While we were finishing the terrace foundation, my mate got started on the final part of the tiling. These stones needed to fit into the notch of the terrace, the exact spot where the terrace would flow into the kitchen. Without these stones, the kitchen would not have any stability, resting on nothing but soft ground. Every piece had to fit perfectly for the solid base. In this top-down view, the evening sun was starting to appear, casting a warm glow over the terrace. We decided to paint the top of the beams black, so the natural wood color wouldn't show, giving the terrace a cleaner, more uniform look. Next, it was time for the finishing touches. We started with the side of the terrace. By cutting the corners 45 degrees, they would fit together beautiful in the corner of the terrace. And of course, we did that because we like to think we are true professionals. During assembling, we realized the edge of the terrace was set too low. The sides should have extended by the thickness of the decking boards, so they would align perfectly with the top. It was trial and error that taught us the right way to do it. As we started laying the decking boards, the terrace came to life. The sun started to shine on it, and soon other family members came by, eager to claim the best spot in the garden for themselves. Unfortunately for the cat, he had to wait a little longer, because the final decking board was tricky. It needed to fit perfectly around the fence post. In total, I had to saw it 7 times before it fit just right. But as I have learned, if you're always expecting things to go wrong, setbacks like these don't feel so bad. Finally, we added 2 sideboards to tidy things up for now. These sideboards are temporary and will be removed later when we build the kitchen. Okay, dear viewers, we hope you can forgive us, because now we are about to ruin this beautiful wood by applying a cheap stain. Even though I advised my mate to go for a more suitable, expensive option, he chose the cheaper one. After all, this project was already costing enough. I can understand that. It is his kitchen after all, but recently he admitted he regretted his choice. Once again, our sincere apologies for this decision. Now the terrace is complete, it's time for the outer kitchen. Perhaps the part you have been waiting for the past 8 minutes. The build started with creating a mold. Inside this mold, we placed custom cut reinforcement, laying the foundation for a strong and sturdy kitchen structure. The edges of the mold were sealed with caulk, and wooden block was placed exactly where the fence posts stand. This ensures that the kitchen will later sit perfectly against the fence, aligning seamlessly with the terrace and the garden structure. We also placed a cross beam inside the mold, because the bottom has a smaller slab than the top surface. The idea was to handle this mold carefully so we could use it twice. While the concrete was drying, we moved on to the brickwork for the kitchen, making the most of our time and keeping the project moving forward. We bought sand cement to bond the bricks together. Well, this type of cement turned out to be useless. It crumbles far too quickly as we worked. During our second masonry session, we opted for a more expensive pack of cement, and it worked much better. The conclusion? Apparently, never go for the cheapest option. During the construction of this kitchen wall, my respect for bricklayers grew by the minute. It's truly a craft to keep everything perfectly level, straight and at the same height. And to do that at such a pace. Nothing but respect for those professionals. As for us, well, we probably took 6 times as long as they would have been. But eventually, we kept moving steadily forward. After a few more evenings of work, the concrete had fully set, ready for the next step of this kitchen build. After removing the mold, We couldn't resist pleasing our egos with at least one deadlift of the concrete slab. After that lift, it quickly became clear we needed help to get it in place. And sure enough, here came Plastic Guy to the rescue once again. With his help, we were able to position the slab perfectly. But before we did that, we took a Polaroid of the three of us. We placed the photo inside the closed space within the kitchen. Someday, if someone ever tears down this kitchen, they will find our photo and see how three friends had fun building it together. And this is the result of the bottom layer of the kitchen. With the bottom section completed, we moved on to the top part of the kitchen. Once again, we started by creating a mold for the concrete countertop. But this time, the countertop needed a round cutout, so the barbecue would fit perfectly into place. For the round cutout, we used an old parasol base. By chance, it was exactly the size we needed. Finally, a bit of luck on our side. Otherwise, it would probably end up in the trash can. But at least, this way it served a purpose. After pouring several 25 kg bags of concrete mix into the mold, we leveled the surface and used our grinders to shake out the air bubbles. Not the proper way to do it, but it served its purpose. We also had to cut several bricks in half, because the wall without a concrete slab that lays halfway in the kitchen had ended up a bit lower. However, we have made these slabs the same thickness as the side of the bricks. So by turning the bricks 90 degrees, the wall was brought back up to the same height as the rest of the outer kitchen. Once the entire kitchen was built, it was time to fill the floor with concrete. We even left the rubble in place. Probably not the proper way to do it, but no one will see it, except maybe those who tear it down in 100 years from now. And this is the end result of the kitchen structure. I didn't film the placement of the slab, because several people came to help. And not everyone wants their face on the internet, and that's something I respect. With the base in place, it was time to prime the kitchen. This would ensure that the plaster would adhere properly when applied later. Next, I cut the corner profiles to size. While doing this, I temporarily secured them with tape, so I could remember exactly which profile belongs to which section. Finally, it was time to plaster. This was something we have been looking forward for so long, because plastering really gives a sense of what the finished kitchen will look like. It was our first time using exterior plaster, which behaves very differently from interior plasters. And with a kitchen full of corners, it's much trickier than a smooth wall. But practice makes perfect. It's the only way to get better. In the end, we went for a rough finish. Since smoothing cement-based plaster proved quite challenging, still we were thrilled with the final result. Once the cement had dried, we decided to slightly sand the plaster. This was to remove the large imperfections and create a smoother surface. During sanding, I was glad I wore my dust mask, because the sanding of this outdoor kitchen produced far more dust than I had expected, to make the work much more comfortable. Next, we taped off the kitchen in preparation for priming and painting. Looking back, I shook the kitchen straight off with water before priming. As it was, my paint roller would pick up quite a bit of dust during the process. On the bright side, it did remove some of the dust, which made the actual painting much smoother and cleaner. While the primer was drying, I started working on the barbecue lid. My maid wanted to be round, something I found quite challenging as a beginner, but I gave it a shot. The first attempt didn't work at all. The leftover wooden beams that I was using for the barbecue lid were too crooked to glue properly. For now, the lid had won, and I went back to painting. We chose Ibiza white as the color. During painting, we made sure each surface was evenly coated. Sometimes we have to paint it twice. The fresh coat of paint immediately gave the kitchen a clean, polished look. Once the kitchen was painted, I also built a frame for the door, making sure the edges look neat and clean. I cut the door frame to size using a handsaw. Sometimes that really is your best option. Next, I wanted to secure the door frame with plugs and screws into the bricks. But oh, was I naive here. I should have realized that the plugs would hit the corner profiles. And you probably guess what happened next. Yes, you guessed it, the entire corner profile came down. Luckily, we still had some stucco cement, which we used to make the repairs. While we were at it, we also plastered the floor again, since it wasn't completely level and the floor tended to pull. In the end, we secured the door frame with the mounting adhesive, making sure it stayed firmly in place. Now back to the barbecue lid that had already given me a hard time before. But this time, it was my time. With the new thickness planer that I had bought for a future project, it was my turn. I planed all the beams straight, and finally I was able to glue them together properly. Next came shaping the lid into a round form. I used a jigsaw for this. Unfortunately, I'm not at that level of skills yet that I could get it perfectly circular. Gluing the lid together caused some unevenness on the surface of the lid. So we decided to saw the lid in half and run it through the planer again. Once we glued the pieces back together, the surface was much smoother and the lid turned out far better. Next, we applied waterproof tape around the edge and attached the handle to the lid. We hoped this setup would prevent any water from entering the kitchen. Exciting to see how that turns out? But first, back to the kitchen door. We made the door from leftover tacking boards and then spent hours trying to secure it properly. This was a tricky job for us, since we were hesitated to drill into the walls again. In the end, drilling turned out to be the best solution. The final step of this build was creating the barbecue holder and staining the door and the door frame. This ensured everything would match the decking, giving the kitchen a cohesive finished look. The final steps of a build like this always seem small and quick, but in reality, they still take quite a bit of time when added together. On top of that, we had a deadline to meet, since my mate was going on vacation the next day, so it was full speed ahead. The door of the outer kitchen was stained to match the deck. It blends seamlessly with its surroundings. Then a simple handle was added. Next, we built behind the door a discreet wooden stand for the barbecue. Its height was measured to fit the barbecue precise, because the lid of the barbecue will rise neatly above the kitchen's edge. Once everything was secured, the kitchen was finally complete. So shall we reveal the final result? No, not just yet. After a winter full of rain, I received a message. Not everything was perfect. Water wasn't always draining properly, which sometimes caused algae to form on the kitchen. And the lid wasn't perfectly either. Time for some repair work. We started by cleaning the kitchen. Then we added another coat of primer, preparing it for a fresh layer of cement. While the primer was drying, I brought the new lid I had made at my home. All that was left was finishing the sides of it, sanding the top and adding some oil. We didn't use any varnish this time. We used just oil. Because we only used oil, we made sure that the wood can still breathe, letting some leftover moisture escape. Now back to the kitchen. The primer was dry, time for the new cement layer. At the round opening we built a small ridge, so no water could run inside, and every section was shaped to drain, making sure water would always find its way out. Next, we added small legs beneath the new barbecue lid. We tested it, it worked, strong and steady. The last step was painting the kitchen again, protecting it for the future. And now the moment of truth, the final reveal. The kitchen, alive and in full action. Ready to be used, ready to be enjoyed. Let's enjoy the end result.